Oh man, I've been watching a little bit of the draft. The combine. Um, for those of you who don't know, I recently moved to Vegas and I've had some issues. I don't know how many of you watch Bar Rescue, but John Tapper would have blown a gasket seeing the kitchen. I had some kitchen work done today, so I've been spending some time cleaning up. And I haven't been able to watch the full combine for some reason or another. I only got a portion of the quarterback, wide receiver, running back on DVR. I only got 3 hours instead of all 7. So I've been kind of going through YouTube and social media to try to find different clips, different things I want to look at. So I still have some work to do as far as the draft. However, sorry about that. However, my first mock draft will be out Monday. That is definite. I'm actually going to start working on it tomorrow. I pretty much have. I did have a mock draft already kind of down, but after the combine, I kind of want to tweak it a little bit. I feel pretty good about 1 through 4. It's just the Chargers at 5. They could go in so many different directions, and they kept on saying it during the combine that Joe Alt, I think is the number 1 tackle in the draft, could go to the Chargers at 5, and I kind of thought it for a little bit, but I mean that just makes a lot of sense. It really does. Looked really impressive. Measured over 6'8". Good footwork. Not the dancing bear type, but when you have that length, you can overcome some things. And I think putting him on the right side, which the Chargers would do, makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at kind of some things in the mock draft. I'm really excited about my mock draft to finally come out. So bear with me here. I am having some technical difficulties. All right, bear with me 1 second. I'm having some minor difficulties, but I believe everything. I think you should be able to see and hear me now if you're having problems before. All right, looks like we're good to go. All right, so there we go. All right. Oh man, Red Sea and Homeland say hi. Man, that's awesome. So the way it works is that the comments from Instagram don't flow over in StreamYard, so I have both windows open. So, man, Red Sea and Homeland, what's up, brother? Red Sea, I really want to hear from you in regards to what Arizona does at 4-27. I'm dying to hear what you have to say. I already have. So the way that my mock draft goes, I got 1 through 4 pretty much ironed out. Yeah, Chargers at 5 is where the draft gets kind of difficult. Also been keeping track of the franchise tags and who's going to hit free agency, who's not. Free agency we'll kind of start next week. So next week we'll talk about free agency. I'm also going to try to get Keaton Talk Sports, who has a couple mock draft videos out. We've been trying to work out a time where we can get together. As far as the draft is the combine is concerned, winners and losers. Xavier Worthy, if you didn't see, broke the John Ross 40-time record, ran a 4.21. Didn't measure in very big. Devontae Smith isn't that big either. So when I see a player that size, I kind of hesitate. The speed is intense, is enticing. I'm not sure he goes in the first round, even though the 4.21 is very impressive, and he also has some excellent tape to go with that as well. So you have the good speed, and then you have the tape that matches, but may not be enough to put him in round one. I'm going to butcher the name here. Audric Estimine, running back out of Notre Dame, ran a 4.71. The thing is, though, this is a guy I was kind of eyeballing because he's a bigger back, more of a power back. Kind of a guy really, I kind of like bigger, more physical running backs. So I was kind of liking him coming into the combine. And he had the slowest 40 time. And anytime you're an NFL running back and running 4.7, that's usually not a good thing. I think it may be a good thing for him because I think a team will take him late, and he's a much better player than the 4.71. He'll make an NFL roster, and I think there could be a team that, because he had a good broad jump. If I remember right, the broad jump was 38. I'm sorry, the vertical jump I think was 38. I don't know what the broad was off the top of my head, but he's a guy I liked a lot more on tape, and then the slow 40 time may drop him down in the draft, but he's a guy that can play. So he's a guy that I think may have lost, but he'll go to an NFL team. And if you're in fantasy football league and your league places a premium on touchdowns, you may want to snag him late. Another guy I thought really could have done better, and I'm trying to find his time here. I thought it was 4.41. Troy Franklin, wide receiver out of Oregon, measured in at, I'm going to give you the exact numbers here. I want to quote you at 174, 176. I really wanted to see him explode, especially when you see a 4.21, so you're running on a good track. So you're running on a good track. So you're running on a good track and you're on a 4.41 and you don't crack 180. That's a red flag. One Pride 40. Welcome, brother. I got a hot take. I see us trading up for Newton. Which one's Newton here? I'm sorry. I should know all this, but I'm just drawing a blank on the players' names off the top of my head here. And I should know this right now. Oh, you're talking about the defensive tackle out of Illinois. I'm going to stick with this. I think the Lions are going to trade down in this draft, and the reason why let me pull this up here because I know they got the defensive tackle out of Illinois player I kind of like. He would be a great fit in Detroit. So Detroit has 2/3, okay? No fourth. I really think that the best thing for the Lions to do would be because here's a drill. The way this draft is going to work out, I think Buffalo. Hold on here. Let me pull up Buffalo's picks here real fast here because I was thinking okay. Buffalo has some late picks. I could see the bottom 5 teams in the draft, and that's Buffalo, Detroit, Kansas City, San Francisco, and Baltimore. I could see all 5 of those teams interested in trading down. The Arizona picks at 27. That's another team that could. Because they have so many draft picks, I think Arizona at 27 might be more of a candidate to trade up. But when I look at the Lions, there's a lot of holes that you're going to miss in free agency. I don't think you realize you're going to miss so much in free agency. When free agency comes, you're going to see a lot of players leave, and you're going to have a lot of holes to fill. And you also got star players that you have to pay for. Penei Sewell, how much you pay a guy like that? You're probably looking at $25 million, and Amon-Ra could ask for over $30 million. The new salary cap's $255. I just got $55 done. in 2 players. And what do you do with those guys? And that's kind of what I'm looking at. I really also, me and you disagree on this. I know you think that the Lions are just 1 player away. I don't see that at all. I think that the Lions need to really just bolster the roster, because you're going to lose a lot of guys in free agency. I did see that she signed Emmanuel Mosley to a 1-year deal. But let's just have some fun here. Let's say Newton. Newton has. I could see Newton going anywhere between. I'd say 14. I actually, I tell you the truth, the Raiders, but I don't think the Raiders take a defensive tackle at 13. The Saints at 14, all the way to, God, I'm trying to think here, Dallas at 24. And so what team would you trade up with? And how much, are you willing to give? And I'm looking at Seattle at 16. And the reason why I say Seattle at 16, if you saw Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs, both of them are released today. I'm really surprised about that, because I kind of thought that you would want to, because you have some holes at defensive tackle. So Newton, by the way, this is a great pick for Seattle at 16. And I've been kind of mocking that. But let's say you're Seattle and you want to address defensive tackle in free agency, then could you make the flip-flop with Detroit at 29? So the Trek Reviewer, what's up, brother, man? I hope that you are looking forward to my mock draft, which is going to be released Monday. I'm leaning towards Monday morning, but we'll have to wait and see here. So Doris, I like a lot. You're just referring to defensive tackles here. And I'm sorry. I apologize, because I normally have more the names down. It's just been kind of rough lately. So I'm drawing a blank on who you're talking about here, Dolores. I'm a little embarrassed to admit that. I always hate when I'm missing something here, but trying to figure out who you're talking about. If you don't mind, like when you bring up a player, if you can give me like a name in the school. I'm calling it now. Texas Longhorn defensive tackle Sweat and wide receiver Worthy to Buffalo. Actually makes a lot of sense. That's actually really good, because I'm looking at Buffalo. Buffalo in the second round, they pick 60, so 28 and 60. Sweat going 28 makes a lot of sense. Worthy sliding to 60. Ooh. You know what? In most drafts, I would say no. This draft, yes. There's so many good wide receivers. A guy like Worthy going to Buffalo at 60 makes a lot of sense. I'm going to star this comment here, because I'll be honest with you, Sweat kind of makes some sense. Now, keep in mind, they got Ed Oliver on a big time deal. They got another defensive tackle that everything is. God, I wish I could think of his name. He had some injury issues, but when he was healthy, so defensive tackle might not be the issue in Buffalo. I'll be honest with you though. They have some other holes here. Who's that defensive tackle? Daquan Jones. And you also have Jordan Phillips. I'm looking at their defensive tackles right now. You're kind of loaded, but Sweat would be a good fit. So. Yeah, Daquan Jones. Yeah, that's a name I was drawing a blank on. Normally, I'm going to say normally I'm better on it. I'm always bad with names. But I know he's a big body guy. And then Ed Oliver, I like one run stuffer, one run stuffer, and then you got a guy that's better suited to get after the quarterback. And Oliver, he was a guy that I always thought was a mistake when Buffalo picked him at 8. I think it was 8. It was 8 or 9. And he's panned out. I don't think he's a superstar, but he's a really good player. Funk Legette's a guy. So Funk says, how's everything going tonight? Man, Funk, I'm doing great, man. You watch Bar Rescue. If you do, John Tapper would blow a fit, but I had the kitchen. The guy came, repaired everything. So I only have one TV here, and I keep it upstairs because I sleep with TV on. So what I've been doing is I was upstairs, but then I came downstairs because like I've been literally spraying the shit out of this floor. I haven't used the oven yet, but I cooked on the stove for the first time ever. It's so. But I had to clean around, and then the floor was just beyond disgusting. I should have got like a scrub brush or a mop. I just got I bought a 30 pack of paper towels. Anyway, I'm sorry for the rant. Legette, I liked at the draft a lot. Forget 40 time. I think it was 4.54. Let me double check that. I got the NFL Network here, and I think I want to say 4.54, 4.51, and I wouldn't even worry about that. And the reason why is that when I saw how thick he was, he reminded me of Deebo Samuel, also a guy that went to South Carolina, by the way. I think he ran at 4.51 if I remember right. Looking for his time right now. Holy shit, he ran a 4.39. I don't know why I said 4.51. I didn't know you ran that fast. But the thing that stood out to me was how big he was. And I didn't know he ran a 4.39. I thought he ran like a 4.5 something. Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I've been penciling in. So I probably shouldn't reveal this, but I've been penciling in the offensive lineman from Duke, a guy that I really, 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 really like. And I've been penciling him in to Detroit because I think you're going to lose. He played left tackle at Duke, but he's going to slide to the inside. He could play guard or center. And he's a Dan Campbell type of dude. He's one of those kneecap biters. I don't know if you guys are sick of me saying that yet or not, but that's who I've been having going to Detroit. Legette makes a lot of sense. Okay, so I'm on the NFL Network. I can't show you the clip. His first one was a 4.47. Then he ran a 4.39, but he looks like a running back, and it makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Before Buffalo, I didn't know that. I should. I want you to, the Trek reviewer. I don't know if you I think we follow each other on Instagram. I could be wrong about that. I'm still fighting with Facebook. It's been over 2 months, so I'm kind of like just resigning to the fact that Facebook hates me and I can't get back on, which sucks because I was in some Facebook groups that I enjoyed. But if you're not, I'm on Instagram and I'm on Twitter and both my social media links. If you don't mind, send me a friend request if we're not already friends on social media. And make sure you remind me of it. But yeah, I did. I should know that. I didn't, and that makes a lot of sense. And I love Worthy going to Buffalo because I think sooner or later Diggs is going to leave, whether it's free agency or a trade. And having a guy like Worthy with Josh Allen's arm strength just makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. And yeah, Worthy ran the 4.21. Did I say a different name? Yeah, John Tapper. Yeah, he would just blow up. Boston College guard is a player I like. I haven't watched too much of him. The kid out of Duke, I've been mocking to Detroit, but when I do my final mock, when I release my mock on the 11th, I may switch that up because I'll be honest with you, Xavier Legette makes a lot of sense. Good. I think one of them, I know one of them you do, but BB from K-State's a guy that you could also get in the second. He might slide to the third. Don't forget, Chris Jones is going to be a free agent. He's going to be an expensive free agent, but I've been trying to think of like best fits for Chris Jones, and it kind of sucks for both me and you, One Pride, because I think the best fit might be Chicago. You put him next to Montez Sweat. The defense is already good. Now you can make it great. And if you do what I say you're going to do, and that's you're going to keep Fields, flip-flop with Washington, and then you draft Marvin Harrison Jr. at 2. And you add Chris Jones, call it the day. And that's kind of, and then I say call it the day, you pick at 9th. And at 9, who knows what you do at 9? You could do 101 different things. Yeah, I'm glad because I was kind of like the first thing, like he's a guy that, okay, so here's the deal. I'm not a Duke fan, but I'm not a Duke fan, but I can't think of any player that graduated from Duke that's like, oh, you're a dumb player. Usually they're always very smart, but this guy is not only smart, but he's just one of those guys that he's a finisher, and he's a guy that I really like. And so I usually try to pick players that I like with fits. And when I look at Detroit, like where they're probably going to lose 1 or 2 of the guards. So that's kind of what I'm saying. I know one of those I follow. Yeah, we tagged Snead, and there's talk about a trade, which makes a lot of sense because Kinsey's been drafting corners, and we got a ton of corners. Chris Jones is probably going to hit free agency, so I wouldn't be surprised if we go into the draft without Snead and Chris Jones. And that's kind of the way I see things going for Kansas City, unfortunately. Even though I'm a huge Chris Jones fan, and I love L'Jarius Sneed. So, yeah, I know. And by the way, so like my first mock draft will be before free agency, and then my second draft will be after free agency. So there's going to be some differences. I was really hoping to have a mock draft out yesterday. I wasn't able to watch as much of the draft as I want. And now that I've watched the combine, I keep flipping those terms. So now that I watched some of the combine and I got to see some of the reviews, because it was 7 hours for quarterbacks, receivers, running back. My DVR only got 3. So I had to go through. I wanted to watch McCarthy throw. And then I talked to Denver Gator, and Denver Gator, he told me, he's like, dude, you need to see John Old. And then he said McCarthy also really impressed him. And McCarthy's a guy that I really was not high on. So LaFunk says, I need to see how free agency goes before I put my foot down on why I see in the draft. Aduze or Darby would be a solid pickup in free agency. Well, I saw that you re-signed Mosley, who's a solid player. He just can't stay healthy. That would be a nice pickup if he's healthy. Darby would be a guy I've always liked, and I think he'd be excellent in Detroit. Could you imagine Buffalo gets both defensive tackles, Sweat and Fisk? Well, maybe I flip-flopped it because I really thought that you were thinking Sweat in round 1. Fisk, I don't think gets out of round 1. Not after that 40 time, because I started watching more of him when Daniel Jeremiah put him into his top 50. And then I was like, that's a good fit at 32 for Kansas City. And so I was thinking you wanted Sweat in round 1, but if Sweat slides in round 2, you could get both of them. That would be a lot of fun. I don't see them doing that, but I think your scenario of defensive tackle in round 1, whether it's Fisk or Sweat, I think Sweat will be there. Fisk, I don't know. I don't know, but if either one of them's available at 27, then you have a good opportunity there if you're Buffalo to really improve your team. Remember last year they if I remember correctly, they traded up so they could get another name freeze here. Dalton Kincaid, player that I absolutely loved and I hated that he went to Buffalo. But yeah, it would be a lot of fun. It would be a lot of fun. I kind of did though. I've always loved Stephon Gilmore, but he'll be 35, I think. And so you got Stephon Gilmore at 35. I know Dallas tried to put Diggs and Gilmore as number one corners, and then both of them got hurt at times. Gilmore played a lot last year, but Gilmore just at this point, I kind of a week two to be honest with you. But Gilmore, I think Gilmore, especially if you draft a corner in this draft, and then Gilmore's a guy that if I have a young corner, I draft somebody in either rounds 1 or 2 because this is a good corner draft. There's other positions that are getting more fanfare, but there's a lot of really, really good corners in this draft. If you grab one in either rounds 1 or 2, and then you bring in Gilmore, who I think will be in Canton someday, then yeah. Weak cornerback market, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, keep in mind Snead's been tagged, and I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be traded. There was talk. I was watching NFL Live. It was kind of weird because I was like cleaning and I was going upstairs and watching TV. And they were talking that the Chiefs would be happy with the number 2, and a lot of Chiefs fans like, no, I want a 1 and a 3, and it's like 2 makes sense. And the Chiefs have been hitting on their second round picks. Nick Bolton, Creed Humphrey, second round picks, Chris Jones, second round pick. I mean, I'm going in eras here, but Rasheed Rice, second round pick. But the Chiefs have drafted a lot of corners. Yeah. Yeah. So KC. I like Gilmore, but Father Time is undefeated. Yeah. And by the way, if I'm Gilmore, and I hate when teams and fans say this, like the hometown discount, Gilmore, after playing in Dallas and after making a lot of money in free agency over the years with New England and Indianapolis, he might say, hey, look, I want to win a ring, and Detroit might be a great spot for him. And he's a player that would be needed, and he might take a little less to go to Detroit. And I hate when fans say, oh, hometown discount. But in a case like Gilmore, if you could get, I don't know, let's say you get 2 years, $15 million at Carolina. Would you take 2 years, 12 or 10 million for Detroit? Probably, yeah. So you're right. You're all right. The Trek reviewer says with the depth at quarterback, wide receiver, and offensive line in the draft, it is possible. You're right. I think Fisk, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have Fisk in round 1, and I'll have Sweat probably in round 2, but I'm only going to do a 1-round draft. Yeah, I drew a blank on Dalton. I loved Kincaid last year. Just loved him. Dan, the Lions did pick up Stephon's younger brother, Steven, last year, so that develops. Thought would work, but I didn't know that. I should know these things, but I didn't. I really didn't. I didn't. So I'm a little embarrassed about that. But Stephon Gilmore, I think would make a lot of sense in Detroit. Yeah, I'd get him for the right price, and then what he would be there is to say, hey, look, I'm here to be part of the piece that could win a Super Bowl. And look, I'm going to ESPN, which is not the best source for depth charts. So I probably should just go to one. There's one thing Luke G told me. He goes, don't use because I use our lads when I do the team breakdowns in July, and he goes, just go to the team website. But I've always used our lads because everything's there. But I'm using ESPN right now. So ESPN has Sutton and Jacobs as your starters, and they list Brian Branch as a corner, but I pictured him more as like a safety slot type of guy. Emmanuel Mosley is also another dude. Stephen Gilmore. Yeah, it's right here. I don't know why I didn't notice that. But corner would be an interesting position if you draft a corner. All right, if you draft a corner and then you bring in Stephon Gilmore, I would really, really like that. And I would be like, wow, that would be a good move. That would be a good move. I'm looking at some of these corners. I'm butchering this name, I'm sure. DeMarcian Richardson out of Mississippi State. He ran a blazing time of 4.34. I didn't know anything about him, but here's a big dude with he's 6'2", about 190 with 4.3 speed, and I knew very little about him, and he's a guy that I'd like to. I mean, he's probably not going in round one, even though he had a phenomenal combine. But I'm looking at some of these corners here. You could easily get a corner in round one, a really, really, really good corner. But I'd be interested to hear, I'd be interested to hear what Lions fans. How would Lions fans feel? Let's just say you stay pat at 29. How mad would you be or happy picking a corner? I wish Kansas City still had Elvis Grbac or Steve Bono as their starting quarterback, and Mahomes played baseball. So there's 31 other fan bases. So there's 31 other fan bases. Nobody really wants to see Patrick Mahomes. So nobody wants to see Patrick Mahomes. So. It's kind of funny. I went to the 40-yard dash all on the NFL Network, and it does all time, which is kind of cool. Okay, here it is. So I finally So, I was talking about winners and losers. Isaiah Garando, the running back out of Louisville. I didn't know much about him. I know he had a good game in the Holiday Bowl against USC. And I kind of poo-pooed it because USC's defense was really bad, and they had several players that were sitting out, to prepare for the draft, even though they're a 7-5 team. So I know he had a good Holiday Bowl, but I didn't think much of it. Measured in at 220, ran a 4.33, and he also showed skills of being a 3-down back. And now I'm kind of like, this is a guy that I may have put as a 5th, 6th, or 7th round pick. Maybe this guy could go as high as round 3. Some of these running backs, this is kind of an interesting running back group because there's some really good running backs, but nobody's going to go in round 1. I like Mahomes' dad. He always gave up home runs to the Yankees. It's funny. I don't follow baseball at all. So I have no idea what he was like as a baseball player. It's funny, when the Royals won the World Series, it was like 6-7 years ago. I didn't watch a single pitch. It was funny. I knew a buddy of mine who spent a crazy amount of money to go to a World Series game. I was like, and I told him, I said, I didn't even know you like baseball. He goes, oh, I don't, but it's a World Series, so like I wanted to go. And I was like, all right. And then I had some friends of mine went to the Royals parade, and I'm like, you don't even follow baseball. Everybody loves a winner, man. Everybody loves a winner. But I know nothing about baseball. I have no idea who's good right now or not. I have no clue. I have no clue. I have no clue who's good in basketball, hockey. And basically, in my free time, all I've been doing is just going over the combine and the draft, and just trying to find going over some mock drafts and trying to make heads or tails of what my first video is going to be like. So it'll be my first video here in Vegas. So kind of excited about that. And then even though I titled the video, I put in the description winners and losers. There's not really a lot of losers in this draft. And when I watched the combine, I'm always more happy I find more positives, and I always find more players that I like than players I didn't like. So, but the running back on Notre Dame, the 4.7, hurt himself. Troy Franklin with the 4.4, was it 4.41? That's not a good thing. I would say, if I had to say, give me a big time winner, Quinion Mitchell, the corner out Toledo, just put on a show, and I love this demeanor. Ran the 4.33, had 21 reps on the bench press, looked like an NFL day one. Like here's a guy that could just line up cornerback number one and can play. And that's just a guy that when the draft started, I was like maybe late first one, day one, and then the Senior Bowl attraction. So like mid to late round one. Now I'm thinking he might go top 10. So what I remember from those Mets teams was Mahomes Sr. Was on that. They had two relief pitchers named Bobby Jones there in the bullpen. That's kind of cool. Is that the Mets team that had Darryl Strawberry and somebody else who was really, really famous? Is that the Mets teams, the 80s Mets teams? Is that what I'm thinking of? Darryl Strawberry. I want to say Bobby Bonilla. Is that right? So all chips game series are for people with money, not for fans. All chip game series for money. Chip games. Chip series. Oh, a World Series. Okay, I get it. Yeah. My buddy and his dad, they had a lot of money. They had a lot of money, and he was trying to say how he struggled, and I'm like, he bought you a house, fucker. How are you struggling? He got you a job you weren't qualified for. Chip, you would jam. Yeah, it took me a minute. I got it. It took me a minute, Funk, but yeah, this guy, charismatic as all can be, but like the hardest thing he had to go through was when he turned 16, he got a used car. You know the type, man. You know the type. Like never had to go through a rough patch in his life. Charismatic dude, though. Can't say I didn't like him, but it was like, God, you never had to struggle with anything. So it happens. Yeah. He went to the World Series. I could care less. I lived in. I just moved to Vegas a couple weeks ago. Don't know anything. Strawberry and David Cohn. I remember. Oh yeah, David Cohn came to Kansas City for a while. Gary Carter, Bobby Bonilla. Yeah, Bobby Bonilla had like some crazy contract that gave him like $1 million until like this year or something like that. It was something goofy. So, but yeah. Yeah, I don't follow baseball at all, but I watch the ESPN 30 for 30s, and I watch as many of those as I can get my hands on. I watched a couple months ago. I watched the Phi Slamma Jamma, University of Houston, when they had Clyde Drexler and Akeem Olajuwon. What was the other one I saw? I saw Everybody Hates Christian Laettner. Yeah, Cohn grew up in Kansas City. Yeah, he played here. It was a big deal. I remember that. What was the other? Brian versus the Boz. That was a good one. I watched a couple months ago, I watched, it was actually during football season, and it just caught my eye, and it was really, really good because I kind of forgot about it because I wasn't a huge fan. But the American Gladiators, they had the American Gladiator story, and I had no idea. I had no idea. But yeah, they had American Gladiators, 30 for 30. Really, really. I wasn't a big American Gladiators fan, but the 30 for 30, watch it. The newest one is about Reggie White, and I haven't watched it yet. But so very rarely I'll dive out of football when it comes to like, sports history. But as far as baseball is concerned, I just remember David Cohn was a big deal because he was from Kansas City. So, being that I'm here in Vegas, I was born in Baltimore. I moved almost the same year to Colstead, showing my age a little bit, and I've been in Kansas City for about 40 years, and now in Vegas for a couple of weeks. And I will say this. Vegas is a fantastic sports town. I had no idea. And they love the Raiders. They love the Raiders. The George Brett Pine Tar game. Yeah. That was actually kind of funny. I've been meaning to watch that one just because I remember George Brett is still beloved in Kansas City. Still beloved in Kansas City. But I remember I worked for a lawn mowing company that when he was still playing, that they did his yard. And apparently his wife just like came out and like screamed at several people. Like they had this like sandstone around the garden, and she wanted to, like, the clippers to go by hand, which I don't know if you've ever done yard work, but going around like their house is enormous, by the way. So like going out with hand clippers is just a bitch. But yeah, she came out and just like chewed out several people, and so yeah, they're like, yeah, his wife's a real bitch. But yeah, the George Brett Pine. I should probably watch that one of these days. I should probably watch that. But as far as the combine goes, Quinion Mitchell, probably the guy I think really improved the most. JJ McCarthy did. I think Michael Penix. God, I can't. I'll be honest. I think he goes in the first round, but I don't want to do any trades in my mock draft because I'm kind of looking at when I look at the draft, Buffalo down to Kansas City, 28 to 32. I think all five of those teams could be looking to move out around one. And I think a team like, the Raiders or the Falcons, maybe Minnesota, possibly New York would be interested in trading up in the late round one and grabbing a guy like Penix. So just walk to the right with the whip, and you keep the grass out of the bed when you're doing the edging. It was kind of hard to explain, but you're right. You're right. So I didn't do it. I was part of the crew because it was massive. So like they had this giant. It was like, I'm gonna say like 6 feet up, and then like it was around that. But yeah, you're right. You've done that work before. I didn't last long there. The job sucked. But the boss, his name was Heath Hadley, and we stayed in touch for a long time. I used to take him to Chiefs games, and we used to have a blast. So what happened is, like, once or twice a year, my dad couldn't go to the game, so he'd give me the tickets. And the rule was you got to drive, me and my sister isn't asked. She just gets a beer or a hot dog. You have to ask her and make sure she has a good time. And Heath was always A+, and a lot of fun. We lost. I haven't talked to him in years, but guy I would love to run into again. Yeah, he hated the lawn mowing job too. Actually, there's a girl I know who married a guy that works for a lawn mowing crew, got promoted to manager. He loves it, but I shouldn't say just one, but yeah. The guy to get on track as far as winners and losers, JJ McCarthy. I think Penix cleared by medical. Joe Alt looked really impressive. Garindo, I'm sure I'm butchering that name. Not going to go in round one, but also very, very impressive. And that's kind of what I'm looking at. There's so many different position groups, though, that I could kind of dive into a little more. The Worthy, even though he ran a 4.21, that's a win. I don't know if it's enough to get you in round one. Brian Thomas ran a 4.33, was very impressive. Big dude as well. Measured in 6'3", 209. I almost forgot the guy that I thought really lost out of the receiver group, the kid out of Florida State. Keon Coleman ran a 4.61. What I thought I was hearing he was going to be a lot bigger. I thought he was going to be a lot bigger, but measured in at 6'3". I heard something he was going to measure in much bigger, but 6'3", 213 ran a 4.6, but the production's there. So Johnny Wilson, Johnny Wilson's the guy. He measured in 6'6", 231. He ran a 4.52. Brendan Rice also looked really, really good. He's a guy that could go late round one, guy that I'm really, really high on. And it's funny because you hear Rice and you think about his dad, but just watch him play. And he's a little different of a player than his dad, but he ran a 4.5. Everybody knows Jerry Rice ran like a 4.7, but kept on running away from people. Brendan Rice, the guy, may probably, because this draft is so deep, especially at receiver, may get out of round one, but he's a guy that is going to be wildly productive in the NFL. So I ran a crew for 7 years. My customers loved me. When I left the company, I was at 14 of my 93 customers. I was at 14 of one of my 93 customers quit the company. I had a lot of homes that are huge of riders. They took over. Yeah, I worked. So it was a 3-man crew, and we had kind of a schedule, but like there was a giant neighborhood that had a golf course. Like everybody converged like once a month for this. We did like everything, and then they had like a crew that came there once a week, and then it was George Brett's house. They had like several crews that they took off their normal route that went over there. They also had a lot of, like, there was a ton of turnover in this place. It was, people would work there for like a couple of weeks and be like, this sucked. I messed up my hand. So he used to sit on the thing and then put the clip, and then, the riders, he would sit on the handlebar. So I tried doing it, and I hit one, and it spun around, and my hand hit the radiator. So my hand started burning. You could hear the steam, and I was like, my hand, I couldn't even do this, so my fingers were swollen. I couldn't do anything for a couple of days. And then once I came back, I was like, this job sucks. I wasn't there long, but yeah. God, I'm one of these receivers. There's so many receivers. I'm like, Johnny Wilson would be fun, but I don't think he gets out. I think he doesn't go in round one. Malik Washington out of Virginia was a guy that was a lot of fun to watch. Luke McCaffrey, his older brother, Chris. How'd I get that wrong? Ran faster than his brother, which is kind of cool. Also productive guy. Probably not going to go in round one. Some of these other receivers I'm looking at, I got the 40 times up. Ricky Purcell out of Florida, I saw some mocks him going late in round one. Bigger dude, ran a 4.41. Really, really impressive. Leggett, I thought he ran a 4.47, then he ran a 4.39. At 221, how does he get out of round one? I had him penciled in like maybe at the bottom of 50, but God, he was impressive. Denver Gator! Denver Gator says, "What's up, football nerds?" Yeah, I was talking about you earlier, Denver Gator. You're talking about Joe Alt, and then I finally went back and watched. So I missed several hours of the quarterback, receiver, and running backs. So I had to watch some clips of. I watched clips of Penix and McCarthy, and those are the only two. And I heard that Bo Nix didn't do that well, but I think part of it was. So when you watch the combine, it goes in alphabetical order. Well, Joe Milton is the quarterback, former Michigan quarterback, played at Tennessee. I think he's an NFL tight end, but he tried out like quarterback, has a bazooka for an arm. I don't think it translates into next level. And all you got to do is watch Tennessee. Under Hendon Hooker, they're averaging 40, 50 points a game. Then you put in Joe Milton, they're averaging 20 to 30. So, I mean, he didn't really – I really think that – and it may take a while, but I think in a couple of years somebody's going to tell him, listen, switch to tight end because he's a big dude. And he's got a lot of athleticism. I just don't think he's a guy that's going to play quarterback in the next level. I'm trying to see. He didn't do any of the position drills. Okay, he did vertical. He had a 35 vertical. Best for broad jump 10-1. That's actually very, very impressive. And then that was it. McCarthy didn't run his 40, but the shuttle drills were impressive. So, Braylon Allen, the guy I really wanted to see, he didn't run, but he had bad vertical and broad jump times. But let's see what happens, man. Look up Providential Street in Grosse Pointe, Michigan. I have a few on there. They have a golf course across the street from their house and a guard post. I will check that out. So one of the things I do is I drive, and one of the things about Vegas that really throws me off is that there are so many gated neighborhoods around here. Even like middle-class neighborhoods, you got to go through a guard shack or you have to put in a gate code. It really throws me off. I did a delivery yesterday, and now they were pretty funny because it was the girl's name and it was two guys, and I said, "Yeah, I got a delivery for," I forget her name, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it's me," and I was like, "What?" He's like, "No, I'm flying," and I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." But yeah, it's one thing about Vegas. It's really weird. Like they weren't. I mean, there's some rich neighborhood, a lot of golf courses out here too. Of course, you can play golf pretty much year round around here, but I'm gonna start this comment here and I'll check it out. Had a few LOL. I don't do them anymore. Yeah, my brother-in-law actually does it. He actually mows yards. He has a trailer, and then he's a union electrician, so he works 9 to 5 or whatever, and then what he does, he gets off work and mows yards for like an hour or two after work because he loves doing it. So he has a trailer and just some push mowers. He doesn't even have a riding lawnmower. He just push mows. He enjoys doing it and makes some money. I have to admit, I was a little surprised. I'm going through the combine numbers. I didn't watch all of it. Like I said, I missed out on a couple hours that wasn't on DVR for whatever reason. Blake Corum, the Michigan running back, didn't have a good 40 time, but he led everybody with the 27 bench press. He ran a 4.53, not terrible. But I'm looking at the Chargers, and you're going to see this. Trust me. There's going to be several former Michigan players that are going to go to the Chargers. But I was thinking Blake Corum. I was trying to think where he goes in the draft, and I'm like, that's kind of funny. A Chargers third round pick is picked 69. Corum could be pick number 69. That's kind of. I was going to say I thought he had a bad combine, but I didn't know he did the 27 bench press, and that's not bad. That's not bad. The 35.5 vertical isn't good for a guy that doesn't crack 200, but the 27 bench is pretty solid. So, But yeah, God, there's so many receivers. Lad McConkey's another guy that could really go late round one. God, a lot of several receivers jumped over 40, including Xavier Legette. You know what, Funk? You know what? You put that in my head and I can't get it out. Xavier Legette to Detroit at 29. It just makes sense. It just makes sense because you can get deep threat in free agency, and you can get a guy like Legette, and then by the way, you get a guy like Legette, and if he does well, then you can play hardball with Amon-Ra. And I know you don't want to hear that, but that might be a situation that you put yourself in where you got to play hardball with a guy like Amon-Ra. But yeah, I'm looking at some of these. I didn't have a chance to look at all the times I wanted to. Or I look at all the bench and 40 times and all that. I wanted to do a lot more, but I wasn't able to. I was kind of disappointed. Like I think everybody, I wanted to see Ben Powers run the 40, and I wanted to see what his measurables were. And he didn't want to participate. I was disappointed. It could hurt his draft stock. Let's see what he does at his pro day. If he lights it up at the pro day, runs like 4.45 or less, and he probably will be around 240. I don't think he played anywhere near 240, but if he weighs in at 240, runs a 4.45, then you'll hear a top 10 conversation again. Some of these tight ends though didn't look bad. One of you guys mentioned, it may have been Keaton Talk Sports, Theo Johnson out of Penn State. 6'6", 260, ran a 4.57. Really helped his draft stock, but I don't think he's nowhere near going in round one. And then there's some offensive linemen that really, really impressed me. So, guys, I apologize because I don't have too much. I really wanted to watch. I really wanted to watch more. I haven't had a chance. But I do encourage you that my mock draft will come out very, very soon. It'll come Monday. It's going to be I think it's going to be pretty good, to be honest with you. I think that you're going to enjoy it. Spoiler alert, no trades except for 1 and 2, which I 100% believe is going to happen. I think Chicago and Washington in the next week or two will flip-flop picks, and Chicago will pick second, Washington will pick first, and they'll have a deal worked out with Caleb Williams. That's the one thing about picking number one. You can work out a deal with the number one pick in the draft. It's just a question of compensation. I firmly believe it's going to happen, and that's what's going to show up on my mock draft is Washington will pick number one, Caleb Williams, and Chicago will pick second. And that's how I'm going to go with the mock draft. So you have a spoiler there. Friday, I'm going to go over some combine notes. I'll have some more news on free agency. As we're going, several players have been tagged. I'll have all that listed and some possible trades. Basically, for next week, the weeks coming up to the draft, we'll do a combination of free agency and mock drafts. Social media links, both of them are below. Facebook, I'm still fighting with. If I ever get back on Facebook, if you do Facebook, I will be more than happy to accept your friend request. There were several groups on Facebook I wasn't part of that I really enjoyed. So looking forward to getting back on that again. If anybody has any questions, concerns, anything else, I was going to sign out. Kind of a short but sweet show. I really was hoping to watch more of the combine before I came on tonight. But I watched enough to know that I watched enough of the combine to know that McCarthy's going to go early in this draft. He's going to be the fourth quarterback off the board. He's going to go really early. And I think Penix should go in round one. I love the way the guy throws. I like his demeanor. I like his build, and he was cleared medically. Denver Gator also, we talked earlier in the week. He brought up Joe Alt. That dude's a monster, and he's my number one tackle on the board. And Quinion Mitchell is my number one corner. We'll have to see where he goes when I release my mock draft. But I encourage you, please check out my mock draft. I'll have it released early Monday morning. Friday, we'll go over franchise tags. I'll have more of the combine watched. I'll have some more notes on the combine. Social media links are below. And that's all for tonight. I hope to see everybody back on Friday. Have a good week, and I'll see you all back on Friday.